Greetings, everyone on YouTube, BitChute, and MGTOW.tv. This is a shot of whiskey, bringing you an impromptu video that was partially inspired by personal laziness, but was also partially inspired by the urge to finally start putting videos on other platforms. Now, before I get to the meat of this video, I do have a couple of things I would like to say. First, the last video that I did was a response to an old BuzzFeed video where a few Asians asked stupid, stereotypical questions to white people. I know that my followers who saw that video know I did not do so out of some idiotic hatred for Asians. But, just in case I need to clarify, I did not do that video out of hating any race. I did it out of hating BuzzFeed idiots. It had nothing to do with a jackass in Atlanta, which I would also like to clarify that all the legit evidence suggests that his motives had nothing to do with race, but it could be said that he did it out of some goofy twist on misogyny. Either way, he's a sick fuck for killing 8 people, just like the falsely accused of being a white shooter in Boulder, Colorado a few days later who killed 10. They're both sick fucks. Can we please move on? And second, with April coming up, I have decided to engage in a fun activity, writing a MGTOW poem for each day of the month because it's National Poetry Month. I hadn't really been doing a lot of poetry writing over these last few years, though. As far as writing goes, I've been mostly working on my novel, which I still haven't finished the first chapter. But I'm putting my novel on hold for this project and plan to dive into it once I am done. So now we're at the part where we'll be going over the actual point of this video. And it's a type that I've never done before, at least not that I recall. I am going to be analyzing an old movie, mostly focusing on one specific character through a red pill lens. The movie I've selected is the 1989 Disney classic, The Little Mermaid. If by some bizarre chance you've never seen the movie, here's an extremely short summary of what happens. Teen mermaid wants a human prince. Daddy hates humans. Mermaid makes deal with octopus witch. Mermaid becomes mute human girl. Witch wins the deal and becomes ruler of the oceans. Prince makes calamari soup. Daddy turns mermaid into human. Marriage. Here's where the lens comes in. Ariel the mermaid has a friend. A fish named Flounder. We don't know much about their friendship, only that it exists. Logically, we can all assume that out of the entirety of the oceans and seas, Flounder is Ariel's best friend. Flounder's friendship for the main character is so strong that the realistic threat of sharks is not enough to separate the two, nor is the wrath of King Triton himself. But now it's time to look at things as a Matrix-free man. Why is Flounder willing to do this? Friendship? Yeah, maybe to an extent, but I'd like to throw out a new theory regarding Flounder's friendship with Ariel. Clearly, Flounder is a male, and as such, I am proposing that he is a stereotypical nice guy beta orbiter. Yes, I am suggesting that he stuck by her side and was willing to sacrifice his safety and happiness for her because he wanted her, but was too nice for his own good. What first led me to this realization was thinking back on a song, the one where she sings while being surrounded by all the human junk she's collected, thanks to a poorly written parody I found on Twitter that was based off of it. Anyways, towards the end of Ariel singing about how she hated living in the ocean and wanted to live life as a land-dwelling human, reality began to sink in for Flounder. If she were to get what she wanted, then I'd never get to be with her. Back when this movie came out, I was about a month shy of turning 7. Of course, from the perspective of kids back then, and I can only assume nearly every single adult, it looked like Flounder was just sad at the idea of never seeing his friend again. I certainly thought that back then, and had for the first 3 decades after seeing it. But, as I've noticed more and more red pill truths in all sorts of movies, including Disney classics, this one currently stands out to me as being one of the most prodigious thus far. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but he's a fish, and she's a mermaid. To that I say, so what? Yes, half of her body is human, but the other half, the half we can all assume has the genitals, is fish. For all we know, merfolk reproduce in the same way that fish do. How do flounders procreate? Well, to be honest, I'm not sure, and I don't plan on searching through nature documentaries to find out. But I do know how salmon procreate, and it's not like how we do it. How salmon do it is pretty much like this. Females eject eggs from their bodies, males nut on the eggs. Perhaps merfolk use a similar approach. Either way, I am stating that Flounder reproducing with Ariel would make much more sense from a non-magical, biological perspective than Prince Eric or any human ever could. To further add to my case, King Triton is a mighty, magic-wielding son of a bitch, and Flounder knows this. I doubt he knows the full extent of the king's powers, but he certainly knows more than the average future seafood dish. Remember, he's friends with one of the king's daughters. He's been in the palace a lot. I would not be surprised if he secretly hoped that King Triton would potentially see him as a loyal, loving male suitor for his adventurous daughter. And maybe, he had the hope that King Triton could turn him into a merman so that he could be a genuine husband for her, especially compared to the idea of the king approving of his daughter wanting a dangerous human. And it's not exactly like King Triton's prejudice against humans isn't unfounded. A lot of humans do go fishing, myself included, by using nets and hooks, as the movie indicates. It makes sense that any aquatic creature who is aware of this threat would fear and even hate that which would harm them or their loved ones. But is it always the right call to make? Think of it like this. Instead of being merfolk and fish, pretend that they are all humans. White humans. Yes, I'm playing this card, just enjoy the ride for now. Daddy doesn't like the nearby humans of a different color because of some statistical probabilities, and doesn't want to risk his offspring to them. And yet he doesn't seem to give a flying fish that there are those within his own tribe that can be just as violent and dangerous, if not worse. Yeah, remember the sharks? Sharks are a thing. There are all sorts of aquatic creatures that eat other aquatic creatures, including fish. Unless said fish has a specific dietary restriction, fish will eat nearly any creature, including other fish that it can fit inside of its mouth. This includes flounders. Guaranteed, Flounder, Ariel's friend, has eaten other fish before. King Triton doesn't seem to care about that. I wonder why that is. Could it be blind prejudice? Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's why he never even thought to consider that there's good humans out there too who would never consider eating any of his fishy kingdom. But whatever. So, then there comes the second half of the movie, where Ariel is actively trying to bid her aquatic life behind for some frivolous enamoring that Daddy didn't approve of, all the while gambling with her own independence. What does Flounder do? He stays out of her affairs. He helps her get to the surface once she transforms, and most importantly, never, ever tells her worried father about what's going on. I get that Ariel is a dumb hormonal teenager, and as such, we can only assume that the character of Flounder is supposed to be a dumb teenager as well. But even in this dire situation, if he were a true friend, and just a friend, why wouldn't he help her by informing her father? I'll tell you why. Because he cared more about her happiness in pursuing what she was raised to believe was the bad boy than doing what was right. Possibly because he knew that she would be mad at him and he wouldn't be able to handle that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Flounder really is just a friend. A really stupid, spineless, yellow-bellied friend. Or maybe I'm onto something. But what do you think? Am I on to something here? Or has my red-pilled ways warped my perspective on kids' movies? Should I do another one of these? What movie or show should I do next? Leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and remember, if you abuse alcohol, it will abuse you back.